Good evening. My name is Bilha Ndirangu. I am the co-founder of Jacob's Ladder Africa. I'm also CEO of Great Carbon Valley. But today, I'm coming in my capacity as a Tutu Fellow and a Climate Ambassador. Thank you, Sela. I would like to welcome you, Your Excellency, onto stage for our first conversation. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure you don't need an introduction to the audience today, but you were earlier introduced in your absence. But today we're privileged to be speaking to the just immediate former Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo. So thank you for joining us once again. And my first question for you, and maybe would love to hear your thoughts around this. From the different conversations, we've made the assertion that what Africa lacks is not financial solutions, it's not science, we have almost everything. It sounds like we have a leadership crisis. Do you agree with that? And if so, what would you say is a problem? What would you define as leadership in climate action?
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending this. I'm sorry I came late. I found it difficult first getting here. But I want to say that after listening to Chimamanda's TED Talk, where she said that we must be careful not to be victims of the one story. I've become rather careful about locating a problem, especially one as big as this, in just one factor. I think that practically, you're absolutely right that leadership is critical, and I rather like the point that Sela made that climate action is a leadership opportunity, or the climate crisis is a leadership opportunity. That way, some of us are able to escape the charge of having not been good leaders, and then we're able to better place the conversation so it's not adversarial, Frankly, I agree with you that there's a lot more that leadership could do or could have done. And of course, leadership is not just political leadership, as I'm sure you appreciate. It's business, religious leadership, and even leadership at the level of young people, such as yourselves. But I would rather look at it really in terms of the opportunity that has been created by the climate crisis. I think one of the very first things is understanding the nature of the crisis, especially for Africa. I think that the nature of the crisis is sometimes misunderstood. I think that there's a sense in which this is almost a one-size-fits-all thing, but we know that for Africa, it is not just a climate crisis. There's also an issue of energy access and poverty. So in resolving the problem, those of us from the side of the fence want to be able to resolve both issues as opposed to one, which is why the whole clamor for a just transition is important, and the mindset of a just transition is just about as important. So I think that conceptualizing the problem well is very crucial. Then the second aspect of that is the whole question of Africa as a victim and all of that, rather than Africa as a solution. And I think that we've come to the point where it's become quite evident that Africa could be the solution. And I think that the evidence points rather, starkly in that direction now. And one of the critical things for me is that if Africa were to develop along the same trajectory as the global north, using the same carbon-intensive methods of industrialization, no one will achieve net zero by 2050 or whatever, 20 whatever. It will not happen. So it's very evident that Africa is the key, and where the barriers are low. If there is interest in investing in African renewable energy, in greening the African economy, Africa could actually become the first truly green continent, and could actually industrialize it, along the lines of a green economy. And that would change the trajectory of the entire argument about net zero. So I think that it's important for us to look at the opportunities, and these are some of the opportunities. And if we conceptualize the problem properly, we may discover those opportunities and find, the line of sight quicker to some kind of a solution.